Hello, this is Peggy Pennock, and I'm here to do a presentation today on constructivism and social constructivism. First of all, I want you to think of a hammer. When someone uses a hammer by himself, nailing something in a wall, that's constructivism. However, if you're at a construction site and you hear a hammer, a jackhammer, a saw, and other equipment, that's social constructivism. Let's explore this more carefully. Constructivism is learner-centered. The definition of constructivism is, it's a theory of learning based on the idea that knowledge is constructed through direct experience. The focus is on what's happening within the minds of individuals and how they create meaning and understanding of their world. Theorists who are part of the constructivist movement are Jean Piaget, John Dewey, Marie Montessori, Jerome Bruner, and Lev Vygotsky. Let's take a look at social constructivism. As you can see in the picture, there are more than one people together interacting with each other. In this case, knowledge is constructed through human activity, which is discourse and conversation, that is, through language. The focus is on human interaction, and the meaning and understanding is created and shaped through their interactions. Social constructivists say this, quote, although both constructivism and social constructivism endorse a subjective view of knowledge, the former, constructivism, emphasizes individuals' biological and cognitive processes, whereas the latter, social constructivism, places knowledge in the domain of social interaction. So what does constructivism have to do with the adult learner? Well, first of all, let's examine what adult learners do. Adult learners are self-directed. They learn by doing. In other words, they like to have things hands-on. They desire relevance. They always fall back on their experiences, and they like to focus on real-life problems. So how do we connect this with constructivism? Constructivism is based on problem-solving, critical thinking, exploration, experience, and what the learner realizes about himself or herself in the process. So you can see how constructivism ties in with what adult learners do. So what does social constructivism have to do with adult learners? Well, learning is social. It involves more than one being interacting with another being. In this case, students generate knowledge through group work and collaboration. So, adults like to guide their own development by using critical thinking and questioning to evaluate their underlying beliefs and assumptions. They learn from what they realize about themselves through their interactions with others. So let's take a look at some techniques that we can use to teach adult learners through constructivism or social constructivism. They are reciprocal teaching, cooperative learning, situated learning, and anchored instruction. We'll take a look at reciprocal learning first. What is reciprocal teaching? This is when an instructor engages in dialogue with students, and the goal is to make learning more understanding. There are 4 strategies involved in this type of instruction. The teacher functions as a model and a coach, and slowly but surely builds on what they want the learner to know, but gradually fading away so the learner can do what the teacher showed the student what to do on his own. So these are some of the things that students must do. They learn to summarize, question, predict, and clarify based on the teacher's modeling. Let's take a look at an example of reciprocal teaching. Say, for example, I were to teach the novel 1984 by George Orwell. The first thing I would do would be to ask students, have you heard of George Orwell? Do you know anything about him or anything else that he has written? Then I would ask them to share about it. If they don't know, then it's my turn to enlighten them. Then I would open up the book cover and show students the title of the novel and say, what does 1984 have to do with anything? Have you heard about this book? This is 2023. Why are we reading a book that took place in 1984? Ask students to read the first page of the novel. And then they will discover that in the first page, on the first page, the clock strikes 13. That's very unusual since clocks only go up to the number 12. That will get students to question and wonder what is going on in this book. Then I will ask them, what do you think the author's purpose is for writing this book? Does he want to enlighten us, inform us, persuade us, spread propaganda maybe, or entertain us? Then I will take a look at the character, the main character who is the protagonist, Winston Smith. I would ask students to read a few pages in which we are introduced to Winston Smith, and then I would get students to answer this question. What do you think is the irony about this character's existence? For clarification, I would ask students to read more and say, look at the word doublethink. What is this all about? Are there any other examples in the book of doublethink or doublespeak or double talk? Why is the author doing this? And finally, can you predict Orwell's message? What is his theme? And how does that theme connect to today's world? So what are the benefits of reciprocal teaching? First of all, the teacher is a model. The teacher demonstrates what he or she wants students to do by summarizing, questioning, predicting, and clarifying. Why do we do this? Because this improves reading comprehension, retrieval, and retention. But most of all, it provides students with many strategies that they can use in their learning situations when they are away from the teacher. Now we'll go to cooperative learning. And you can see the word cooperate in this title. So in this particular approach, the teacher does this. He or she places students in heterogeneous small groups for one or two reasons. One, to engage in academic, two, maybe social learning, and to achieve a common goal. Why is the group heterogeneous? Because students come to a classroom from different backgrounds, cultures, and experiences and knowledge. When they interact with each other, they can benefit from learning from one another. The learning goals here may be structured to promote cooperation, competition, or individual learning efforts. So what are the components of cooperative learning? One is positive interdependence. Students interact with each other and with the teacher. Face-to-face interaction, accountability for both the student and the group processing, and improvement of collaborative skills and problem solving. What's an example of cooperative learning? Well, I like to use the notion of the jigsaw puzzle. In this case, after the teacher establishes the ground rules for instruction and what the group is assigned to do, the teacher then assigns each individual in a group to research a piece of a topic, just like pieces of a puzzle, and then group members will convene to put the pieces together before presenting the topic to the class. This way, they can realize how much the part is connected to the whole. Group assignments in cooperative learning can be something like this. For example, if I were to teach the novel Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury, I would ask students to do this particular puzzle or jigsaw puzzle. One piece would be for one student to look at the significance and meaning of the title, Fahrenheit 451. Another student would be assigned to find out the meaning of the character names of the characters. Another student will work on symbolism, a fourth student on irony, and a fifth student point of view and setting. These are the pieces that they have to work on individually, come together and discuss them to see how they all contribute to the meaning of the work as a whole. So the purpose is to figure out the major theme or themes of the novel and how it parallels the world that we live in today. What are the benefits of cooperative learning? Students are actively involved in their own learning, but they also get to build on each other's ideas. And finally, they get to make connections to the real world and see how pieces of a puzzle work together to bring about a whole. Next is situated learning. It's a learning theory promoted by Jean Lavey and Etienne Wenger in 1991. Proponents of situating learning claim that knowledge cannot be taught in an abstract manner, and that to be useful, it must be situated in a relevant or authentic context. So what does this mean? This means if I want to learn how to do something, I have to go where it is being done. Here's a definition. The process and development of learning when individuals have the opportunity to participate in a community of practice. In such a community, new learners reach the level of the expert as they have more opportunities to practice within that context. So, these are three examples in which situated learning takes place. For example, if I want to learn how to be an electrician, I would do an apprenticeship with an electrician to learn how to do that. The second example is what I did when I was a young student in undergraduate school, and I was called upon to substitute teach before I even did my student teaching. In this environment, wherever I was placed to substitute, I asked other teachers during my planning period to let me observe them in their classrooms so I could learn things about classroom management, how teachers interacted with students, how they organized their lessons, how they ended their lessons, and how the room was organized. So by the time I did my student teaching, I was close to being an expert. Why? Because I observed teachers in their settings, and I watched what they did, took note of it, and I was under the guidance of a seasoned instructor. Another example of situated learning is if I want to be a doctor, first I have to go to medical school and learn all the terminology for anatomy and physiology. But then I do an internship and residency. Where do I go? To a hospital where I can work under the guidance of other doctors in a hospital setting with real patients. Our last presentation deals with anchored instruction. As you can see, it's pretty solid. What is the definition? It's designing and implementing instruction around anchors or cases, stories, or situations. What's the purpose of anchored instruction? In this case, learners learn to utilize prior knowledge to solve reality-based problems often introduced to them through a story. But technology plays a major role in this because it facilitates students' exploration of the subject matter and the problem they're trying to resolve. So activating the knowledge for authentic purposes makes learning more meaningful when you do anchored instruction. The problems presented in anchored instruction are often complex and require critical thinking and complex problem-solving skills. Many mathematical teachers use this method, as well as science teachers. But I'll give you a simple example from literature. I would have students, for example, watch a movie that's either written by Agatha Christie or Sherlock Holmes, a murder mystery of either one of those, but not the entire movie, just enough to see what's going on and that a murder took place and to meet all the characters. In this case, we have all the clues, enough clues to sit down and work out the problem of who the real murderer is. How else can anchored instruction apply in real life? For example, in lean systems, individuals engage in problem-solving activities to eliminate the 8 sources of waste, such as motion, time, inventory, overproduction. Why do they do this? To improve quality, efficiency of the environment, and to improve service to customers and their community. These problems and solutions impact the healthcare profession, the education field, nonprofit organizations, and manufacturing. Another example would be in Six Sigma. In this case, students engage in a 5-step approach, such as design, measure, analyze, implement, and control, to solve problems to improve quality and minimize error in production and in other services. For example, last year I worked with a group to work on reducing chronic absenteeism in public schools, a real problem that's crucial to our country and affects every fabric of society. So what is the impact of constructivism and social constructivism on the adult learner? Well, I'll give you a real case scenario that was done by a real study in 2023 by Almula. In the study, 297 postgraduate and undergraduate students participated, and the findings revealed that learning, motivation, cooperation, peer interaction, peer engagement all have a direct positive impact on students' critical thinking and creativity. But it also impacts academic performance. This was all due to constructivism and social constructivism learning theory that were applied in these settings. Why was this working? Because the instructors use reciprocal teaching, cooperative learning, situated learning, and anchored instruction. Therefore, when adult learners learn by doing, when they focus on learning that is problem-centered, and they play an active role in their own learning, they will not only retain what they learn, but they will apply what they learned in other contexts. Therefore, here's my conclusion. This is how to maximize student potential. If educators want to do this, they must be aware that no single learning theory is an elixir. So even though constructivism and social constructivism theory work, we must be aware of the fact that they are not elixirs. These theories are mere guides to help classroom instructors in designing learning environments. That is why it is incumbent upon the educator to analyze a learning situation, leverage the resources at his or her disposal, and design the very best learning experience for students to prosper in their learning, and so they can share that and build on it for future learning situations. Thank you very much. I'd like to show you my references for this presentation. I'm ready for your feedback. Goodbye.